Hi, today I want to talk to you about how to write a business story. Now when I'm talking about stories, I'm not talking about your brand story, so your overall story that you share about what you do and why you do it. These are about the stories that you can use in your everyday marketing that allow you to get your point across. And so today I want to talk to you about a couple of different elements that can make your story far more captivating and give it purpose. Now, my name is Kelly O'Brien and I'm an online marketing and social media coach, and I help you move your most aligned clients from discovering who you are online through to investing with you using storytelling, strategy, and systems. And of course, today we're talking about storytelling. Now, one of the first things that you can do when it comes to writing a really captivating business story is to ensure that you have a beginning, a middle, and an end to your story. Where are you starting? What is the climax of that story? And then what is the resolution at the end? If you can think about it in those three ways, the beginning is really often the pain point or the situation that someone has found themselves in. There are different types of ways to write a story. This is more giving you tips on what you can do to make that story great. But that beginning is really important where you start. Then the middle, of course, is the climax or the turning point in the story sometimes as well. And then the final bit is the resolution. The next one, number 3, is using drama to keep attention. So if you can find some drama within it, this is really where in the middle of your story you might be able to get someone to stay captivated with that story. It's a great way to do it. So when I wrote a story for Fairbrother, a construction company in Tasmania, I wrote a book, and took me 3 years to write the book of their life. The turning point or the defining moment in their story was the fact that their son had developed schizophrenia at age 21, which was really about realizing that their most defining moment was that they weren't going to be able to give this business to their son. So they imagined that after 21 years of having this business and their son also turning 21, that they'd be able to hand that business over to him. And of course, he wasn't able to take on the company. And so they had to change the way that they'd done their business. And it ended up becoming, an even bigger success story. And that's the end part of the story and the resolution. The next part is the dialogue. Now, there are 2 types of dialogue that you can be looking at to allow your story to have more life to it so that it doesn't feel descriptive and one-dimensional. So one of the ways dialogue is the internal dialogue. What are they thinking about? Depending on which way that you tell a story, whether it's an I point of view or whether it's a third person point of view, but being able to bring in some of that internal dialogue. What are they thinking? What's going through their mind, particularly if you're telling a story about some pain points within the beginning of that story. It's a great way to be able to share that. And then the other type of dialogue, of course, is external dialogue. It's the dialogue you have out loud. The words that your character says to somebody else is really important as well. The next one is sensory language. So this is the ability to be able to allow people to feel like they are part of the story because they can smell what you're describing. They can taste it, they can see it, they can hear it. This is the way that someone becomes part of your story. They move from being someone who's just listening to a story to someone visualizing themselves inside of that story. And when we're telling business stories, this is really, really important because it is an opportunity for us to be able to get people to know what it's going to be like when they experience that transformation for themselves. And our last one on the list is finding the meaning and the message. So there is no point telling a story for story's sake. You need to be able to have an actual point to your story and get someone to understand why you're telling this story. What is the message you want to get across? Now, you may find that when you tell a particular story that you may have a couple of different messages that could come from the story. And that often happens to me, that I'll tell a story or find a story, something that happens in my everyday life that I think that's a great story to illustrate something that I'm trying to get across to my audience. So if I was trying to get across, I'm just trying to think of an example really quickly. So for example, how if I was talking about the mastermind, and I want to show why it's so important to bring different minds together, and how even though you might be in different industries, you'll have a collective experience. And an example of that was we went on holidays a couple of weeks ago to Victoria and up the Victorian coastline and New South Wales coastline. And at a wildlife park, we were sitting waiting for a train to come to be able to do the train ride. And my girls were sitting there trying to negotiate that if they did this, this and this, they might be able to get ice cream at the end of, at the end of the day. So, Mum, if we're really, really good, can we, we've got great behaviour and we go on that particular ride that you want us to go on, then can we have ice cream at the end of the day? There was a lady sitting next to us and she started laughing. And she said, oh my goodness, this is just like sitting here listening to my own children who were actually on the train ride at the time. She said, this is just the same experience that I had. My girls are just a couple of years older. And so I think it demonstrates that as part of a mastermind, you may all be at different levels, as in our children are at different levels. We're in business, you might be at different levels than those who are in the business, who are in, the mastermind. But you'll find that you all have the same experience. You're going through the same things. You understand where the other person is. You just may be coming from that particular issue or problem or challenge that you have from a very different perspective. And sometimes that's great because it takes you out of your own space and shows you a different way to look at things. So they're the 6 things that you can be looking at when you're trying to create a more captivating story when we're using stories in business. So those were, again, making sure you have a beginning, a middle and an end, looking at starting with action so that we can grab people's attention from the beginning. We want to use drama to keep their attention. We want dialogue, both internal and external dialogue. Sensory language to be able to put them inside of the story. And lastly, finding the meaning and the message of that story. What is the purpose of telling that story and what do you want to get across to people? So I hope these tips are really helpful for you in writing your story. Of course, I have the storytelling map, a link here somewhere for you to be able to download the storytelling map so that you can start actually writing your own stories and getting more stories within your marketing to attract more of the right people to your business. Thanks so much for listening and good luck with your storytelling.